When we were kids, we were just much more magical, and I want to tap more into that. In 2026, this is the vibe I want to bring into the function. Hi everyone, my name is Alexandra. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. 2 of my 2026 resolutions are about my inner child. The first one is I want to be more childish, and the second one is I want to let my inner child guide me. I want to elevate this concept. I'm not saying that I want to be more childish in the sense that I want to be immature, because those two things are very, very different things, okay? I was very, very mature since I was like 15 or 16. I was really emotionally mature at that age. And yet, still till I was, I think, 20, I heard lots and lots of comments on how childish I am. In the sense that I was always very joyful. I was always very carefree and just not careless, okay? But carefree. And when you think of a child, you think of a concept of unconditionally loving person who is just joyful, who is so pure, who's not yet left out to be changed by all the words concept. And being childish is not being immature, is not being careless, like I said. It's just being more like a child, like loving unconditionally. And when doing something, doing it with pure joy and learning and being so curious and not being limited by words limits yet. And I realized that throughout all of my life, I've always heard so many comments that I'm very childish, and I stopped hearing them. And I don't really like it. I want to be more childish. I always liked it. I always took it like such a big compliment because I loved that fact. 2026 comes around and I'm thinking to myself, what resolutions do I want to have? And one of the first ones was I want to be more childish. I just want to let this childish self out. And sometimes I was thinking to myself, is it still possible to just go back and still be childish again, still be carefree, joyful, pure, and not destroyed by the world's concepts, not limited by everybody's opinions, just thinking of my inner child's mind? Is it even possible? I don't know yet because I'm just starting this journey, but I believe that it might be possible. I believe that everything that we put our mind to is possible. And so I don't see anything wrong in trying. So one of my 2026 resolutions is I want to be more childish. And I'm going to elevate further on how I'm planning to achieve it. But the second concept is I'm going to let my inner child guide me. Okay, so when we were kids, we're like sponges, right? There's nothing inside yet. We are just literally absorbing everything around us. We are just learning. So before the absorption, right? Before we are absorbing everything, we are just a sponge. But this sponge also have this essence. And this essence, I believe, is our destiny or our passion. Just basically something that is in our inner core. Like, for example, some kids are very passionate about, I don't know, instruments. Some are very passionate about dancing, some about like painting or drawing, some about poetry, like they love books. And every child that I met is passionate about like this one concept or few concepts. And I believe that this is what God, when he put it on us on earth, is how he helped us to just basically find ourselves, to give us this, like, this is your intuition, where you're supposed to go. Because when we're children, it's not like somebody just gave us this and we're like, okay, we like it the most. No, this is something that like the inner us is calling to. Then afterwards, the school starts and you start hanging out with other people, and sometimes maybe you're shamed over what you like. So you kind of lose the touch with the things that you loved as a child. But it doesn't matter that your passion is lost. I understood that when I literally do the things that I loved doing as a child, I feel most like myself and I feel most embraced when I'm doing those things. I feel so inspired. I feel super like this creativity is coming inside of me and I'm just feeling so great before I heard anybody's opinions, before I was putting all the limits with. It's like just letting this childhood mind guide me. Not only I want to be more like my child self with oczywiście. Of course, I want to keep my maturity because I'm 21 years old. I cannot act like a 6-year-old, right? Like, this is obvious. And I still want to learn. I still want to gain the knowledge. But it's different because I still want to be myself from the core. So it's myself who is just embraced, who's like updated. I don't want to lose myself by all the, like I said, opinions of others that I heard or the limits that somebody put it on me. So those two resolutions that are very close to each other, I would say that it can be just one resolution, just a very big one. I want to be more like my childhood self. And how I'm going to do it, let's get into it. Both of those concepts are very connected. So this is, I think, like when I'm going to try to achieve one of them, the second one is going to come easier. When I'm going to try to achieve the second one, the first one is also going to be, uplifting. I think like they are very, very connected. And the first step that I want to be taking into just achieving both of those resolutions is I want to do more things that I was doing when I was a child. So therefore, I want to draw more. I want to do all the colorings. I want to sing. I want to dance. When I was a child, I was very weird. Okay. So for example, what I was doing is I was literally creating my own language. I don't know if anybody can relate to that, but I was creating my own language. This was driving my sisters crazy because I was doing my own language. I was literally writing down the words and I was like, and she was like, hola. And so like this was driving my family crazy because I was literally talking in my own language. Where I can let it guide me is to start learning more languages. And so I've already been learning how to speak in Italian since April, so almost a year. Even though I'm very proud of myself so far, I still want to learn it even more. Like I want to have like C1 till the end of the year. Another example is when I was a child, I was always dancing around. I was always very active. So what I want to do more is I want to go back into the dancing. I was dancing most of my life and then I stopped and it drives me crazy. And so I want to come back into the dancing, and it doesn't have to be a professional one because honestly, with my routines, with my graphics, with all of the things that I have going on, I don't know if I could have regular classes all the time, especially that I'm not living in a city. So this would be very, very hard to do, but I can just do it literally in my room, just taking 2 hours, random day a week, 2 hours, and literally just doing all the choreographies that I was doing even before I was signed to dancing classes. I was literally just putting on the music and I was doing choreography in my room. That was all I was doing. Another thing, I loved acting. By the way, whenever I was asked as a child who I want to be when I will grow up, I was always saying, I'm going to be a star. And they were like, I was like, what's so funny? Literally, what's so funny? Like, I was always just, I want to be a star. I want to be a model. I want to be an actress, a singer, and a dancer. Straight face. And I was literally like 100% sure I'm gonna be that. And honestly, I don't know what life events brought me that I stopped believing that so much. And so I want to like take that back, and I want to still be so sure that, hey, those are the things I want, so why can't I have it? This is not so hard. And so I want to tap more into those things. Like, for example, like I said, dancing, like singing, like I was literally just recreating the scenes in my favorite movies. I was doing this thing that my favorite Disney movie was Snow White. And so we also had a CD who was playing the Snow White, like just audiobook, right? And so what I was doing is literally it was going on for hours. I was putting on the audiobook and I had this dress of a Snow White and I was being like all of the characters. I was learning their lines and I was literally just doing like a theater scene where I was changing the characters, and I could do that for hours. Like I was literally so focused on to doing all those characters. And then when Snow White was dead, I was dead. And then it was switching to the prince, and it was so many things going on, and I was literally like doing it all, and I loved it. So what I want to tap more into is also acting. Another thing, like, oh my gosh, when I remember all the things from my childhood, I'm like, it's literally what I'm mostly passionate about. And I never figured it this way. Like, it all started from when I was like 5 years old. And I want to let it guide me. Like, this is not random. This is not something that was put it onto me. Like, my parents are not people who are like, oh, she's going to be a painter. She's going to be like that. No, it was never something that I was told. This was something that I was feeling. This was something that I was all my life. And they're not like unsupportive or anything, but it's just that this concept didn't come from my parents, didn't come from my sister, didn't come from my uncles or aunties. Like, it didn't come from anybody outside. It came from inside. In 2026, I want to embrace this inside of me, this inner child of mine, and I just want to tap more into the things that I was loving since I was literally a baby. Another thing that I know for sure that I'm going to be doing to reach this goal is to let myself be bored. I really think that our generation has a big, huge problem on how to stay bored. Like, we don't know how to do that anymore. And this is scary. Honestly, it's very, very scary because we have so many stimulations around ourselves that we forgot how is it to just let us be. Let ourselves sit in quiet and peace with our mind. Let's relax. Let's just sit here. I was a master of being bored when I was a child. Like, a master. And so what I was doing, I was very creative. Honestly, when I was a child, I'm so inspired that by my child self, because I was so freaking creative. I was so freaking smart. Like, when I was a child and I was up in my room, I could have been there for hours, right? And so I was up in my room and I didn't have any music. I didn't have any toys. I didn't have any books. All I had was I had all those things. I just didn't use them. So I had a bed, right? I loved just laying down with my head like upside down. So I was seeing everything upside down, just like my head, hanging down from the bed. And I was seeing everything upside down. And I was imagining how would it be if the roof was on the bottom, and like if the house was like upside down, how would it be? And that I would be walking on the ceiling, and you see the door like downstairs on the bottom, it doesn't have any like right here, it has the space that you would have to go above. And I was like, okay, so I would go above it. And then I was remembering all the house, how it looked like. And honestly, this is such a great like creativity exercise and memory exercise. It's like, it's so amazing. And I was literally like 5 when I discovered that. And I was laying like that till when I was like 10. I was literally, whenever I was bored, I was just laying down on my bed, letting my head just swing from the bed, and I was just watching everything upside down, and I was like thinking like that for hours. I was a very weird kid, by the way, if you didn't notice already. Like, I was a very special one. I was special. I still am very special. The third thing that I already actually started implementing in my everyday life is treating myself as if I was a child. Like, for example, I'm laying down and I have my hand here on my chest and I feel my heartbeat, and I'm thinking to myself, this heart didn't change since I was a baby. It's still the same heart. Like, I've always had this heart and I'm gonna have it always. And then, for example, I'm touching my stomach and I'm thinking to myself of all the organs inside of it, and I'm thinking to myself like, hey, this stomach is something that I always had. It tasted like it had everything, every food that I ever tasted was inside of the stomach. And I was like, wow. And then I'm touching my hands and I'm like, hey, it's the same hands. And it sounds so bizarre, right? But this is something that literally I'm feeling more connected to my childhood self. I'm feeling more connected to me as a child, which basically the whole concept of it is to be more like you as a child, right? So when I think of myself as a child who just transformed a little bit, it's easier for me to actually like treat myself as a child. It also helps me a lot when I'm looking at my childhood photos. Like, I'm looking at myself and I'm like, this is me. And whenever I want to say something about myself, I'm thinking, this is this little child that just grew up. I am just this little child who grew up. It's still me. And this inner me, it's still me. And so I'm just going on understanding that this whole self of mine, it's me. And this creates honestly such a bond with your inner child, with your inner self. The fourth thing is honestly something that has been a trend since, I don't know, half a year or even more. I love this trend, by the way. It's to be more whimsical. I am loving the trend of being more whimsical because since I was, like I said, a baby, I was always very bizarre, okay? I was always very strange, and I never gave a flying F about who thought of me in a weird way. Like, I was just like, well, hug the tree. Why not? Whenever I saw the trend online, like how to be more whimsical, I'm like, I'm doing things like that. Like, bro, I could win this trend. Honestly, I don't know why I never like tapped into this trend. Like, I should do a video on how to be more whimsical. Also on my TikTok. If you don't follow me there, please do. I was always very bizarre, and I always felt like, of course there is magic. All of those things are true. There is a magic all around us, and I still believe that there is magic. Like, why wouldn't there be? Like, we are such magical creatures. Why wouldn't there be magic? And I think just people are afraid to call it magic because it sounds so strange. It sounds so like out of this world. But I think this world, this planet is magical. There is magic all around us. We're just scared to call it this way. But anyway, I was very whimsical when I was a child, okay? I was doing very weird things, and I'm kind of ashamed to start saying everything, but I was very connected to just this magical side. I was believing in magic. I'm not gonna say practicing magic in like some weird woody way, but I was just, for example, whenever I felt more down, I was thinking of how the energy is going outside of my body. I didn't call it energy then. I just felt like I'm just gonna let it out. I'm just gonna let it out. And I was doing all of those like habits that honestly later on when I was like a teenager and I started learning more about spirituality, I was like, and also when I was a kid, I could read auras. I don't know. I feel weird sharing it on internet because I don't want to be like called out like, oh my god, she's lying. Like, you can ask my family. They were scared, okay? I was seeing things. Whenever I was saying to some people, they were like, girl, are you okay? And so I think that's how I kind of killed the side of mine. But I was always doing all of those weird things around. Like, for example, around about the energy, or when I was with my sister watching like all of the TV shows, like, you know, Hannah Montana, or how's it called, Ben 10 or something like that. Like, I loved Yamate Ecstatic. I don't know how to say that in English, but all of those, you know, like Disney TV shows, and I loved them. And also we were literally like addicted to Avatar, like the TV show Avatar, the Aang one, right? I loved it. I was like obsessed with it. Also my sister. And so of course he can manipulate all of the fire, earth, and wind, and the water. And so I was literally like, in my head, I was thinking of myself as an avatar, and I was like manipulating the fire, or I was trying with the wind or with the water, and I was just literally just playing out, just having fun with the magic. Even though nothing was physically happening, sometimes when you're in the water and you see it flowing and you're doing this thing but not fully like up, like above the surface, when you're doing just this, the water is like phew, right? And so I thought it was very magical, and for like a year and a half I was believing that I have magical powers. But basically I was doing a lot of things like that, and it helped me be more whimsical, be more just like magical, and I was literally believing that I was magical. And this is something I want to do more, because this literally like just reminds me of when I was a child and I was doing all of those things, and it felt beautiful, it felt joyful, it felt carefree, and it felt like this just fairy tale, you know. And this is how I want to feel. Like, I want to have this vibe in 2026. This is the vibe I want to bring into the function, okay? And the last thing that I believe that is gonna really help me be more like my child self is to connect more into the nature. I feel like when we're children, we are very connected to animals, to the nature itself. I feel like the Mother Earth is still so close to us that we are feeling this bond that is kind of lost afterwards when we are going into the real world. That I don't like this term, like the real world. I think it's just when we're going into the society, but I believe both of the words are real equally. I was going for lots of walks when I was a child. I was just hugging the trees. I always had lots of animals around me, and I feel like this made me feel even more spiritual, even more uplifted, even more joyful. And this is the last thing that I want to say here, but I think I'm not going to say it's the most important part, but I'm not going to say also that it's the last because it's the least important part, because I for sure know that it's not the least important. When we're children, I feel like you see all of those videos, like the dogs acting differently around kids, and the cats, and just like the babies are so sacred for the nature, like around, like even when you see the wild animals are not gonna hurt the kids, because the kids are like very special to the nature and to everybody, honestly. And so I think that when you want to tap more into this childish self, into this kid self of yours, then you have to tap more into having the contact with the nature, going outside, being in the open air more, and literally, just like I said, just go ahead, hug this tree, just go ahead, speak to the animals, like just be more in touch with the nature, be more in touch with this whimsical part, like in a fairy tale, like in the Disney movies. We were much more, when we were kids, we were just much more magical, and I want to tap more into that. This is a beautiful thing, and I don't think this should be lost over the years, because okay, you're an adult, what changes? Nothing changes. This is still you. And I don't want to be the boring adult. I know how it sounds, but I don't want to be an adult who says, oh my god, this is not real, like, or let the kids play. No, I'm gonna play with the kids. I want to be the mom who's gonna tell all those fairy tales. I want to be the mom who is gonna inspire the kids into being more playful, more magical. And I know how my mom was. Like, she was always just promieniująca. It's like she was just sparkling. She was just inspiring. She was full of life, and I always admired that. And I want to be this kind of mom. I want to be this kind of adult. I don't want to be the boring adult. I really hope that this video inspired you, and if you like the content, please make sure to join our community and hit that subscribe button. And if you like the video, leave the thumbs up and comment down below what did you like, and if you disagreed with something also, I'm very curious about your opinion. So I love you guys so much, and we're gonna see each other next week. I love you. Bye.